Well, 20 years ago today, back in November of 1997, the BBC launched two brand new services. One was called News 24, a 24-hour television news service. We're now called the BBC News Channel. And the other was BBC News Online. It was a very different world. Just 8 million people had access to the internet in the UK back in 1997. Today, by the way, it's more than 60 million. Nick Huw reports now on 2 decades of news on demand.
Hello and welcome for the first time to BBC News 24. I'm Gavin Esler.
And I'm Sarah Montague.
The headlines at 6 o'clock.
November the 9th, 1997, and BBC News 24 goes on air. For the first time, BBC viewers didn't have to wait for the news at 6 or 9. It was available on tap.
I was hoping that it would just become something people would turn on when they wanted to know the news. Why should we tell them when they had to sit down and watch the news? And I thought it would be truly a utility that would therefore, once we'd started, it would never go off air.
Was that what happened?
It went off air almost immediately because of technical difficulties. The computers didn't work.
The technology failing us, pictures cutting, going to black, freezing, the wrong pictures coming up, us as presenters having to explain what was going on, why it was going on, apologising a lot.
It took time, but they did overcome the technical problems.
You may have heard that Air France...
Jane Hill, the only original presenter still on the channel, remembers the day it came of age, when an Air France Concorde crashed in Paris in July 2000.
That story was so big, it was the first time that we were simulcast and the channel ran on BBC One or BBC Two, because the controllers of those big national channels took the view that this was such a big unexpected story that the audience appetite wanted to watch that story unfold.
Also, we have some remarkable pictures coming in from New York, which we can go to now.
Since then, the channel's covered many major stories.
Now, some breaking news. Reports are just coming in of an explosion at Liverpool Street Station here in London.
The London Fire Brigade has confirmed they're dealing with this serious fire in a tower block at Latimer Road in West London.
The British people have spoken, and the answer is we're out.
Indeed, the past 18 months have seen some of the biggest stories in the channel's history.
Now we've got details of a potentially serious incident coming to us from various news agencies of 2 people shot outside the Westminster Parliament.
At least 50 people have died and more than 200 are injured after a gunman opens fire on a country music festival in Las Vegas.
We're going to get to work immediately for the American people.
And sometimes things go wrong, like the time a man called Guy, who'd come for a job interview, was mistaken for a technology expert called Guy and put on set. He bravely tried to answer the question anyway.
Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Were you surprised by this verdict today?
I'm very surprised to see this verdict to come on me.
20 years ago, the BBC also launched news on the web. It started modestly but soon grew rapidly, deliberately trying to appeal to a new, younger audience.
The idea was that online would start to reintroduce young people to news because they were using computers, and it was so successful that very soon it became difficult technically to keep up with the demand, because it was being pumped down sort of Victorian copper telephone lines basically.
These days, online and digital services sit at the heart of the BBC's newsroom. There's been a fundamental shift in the way people get their news, often through social media like Twitter and Facebook.
Hello everyone, this is Afternoon Live. I'm Simon McCoy.
Even so, the appetite for television news channels hasn't disappeared. The BBC still reaches 7 million people a week. Nick Huw, BBC News.
Nick there with a flavour of some of what's gone on over the past 20 years. Now, in the next half hour, we'll be looking back at 2 decades of 24-hour television news, and we'll be talking to the man whose initiative it was, Tony Hall, who was at that time Director of BBC News, now, of course, in overall charge of the BBC as Director General. And we'll be asking him what his memories are and how the service fits into today's news landscape. So that's coming up in the next half hour or so.
Now, exactly 20 years ago today, the BBC News Channel went on air. Then it was called News 24. And since then, it has covered major events such as the Concorde crash in Paris, 9/11, 7/7, the fall of Saddam Hussein, and many others, of course. Well, we are now Britain's most watched television news channel, and this year we were awarded the Royal Television Society's News Channel of the Year. So let's have a look back for you now over the last couple of decades of rolling news, which was launched by my colleagues Gavin Esler and Sarah Montague, and you might see one or two other familiar faces.
Hello and welcome for the first time to BBC News 24. I'm Gavin Esler.
And I'm Sarah Montague. We're live now to Ben Brown in Amman. Ben, this has been a very hardline stance from America. Is it likely to be supported by the UN Security Council when they meet tomorrow?
Well, I don't think the UN, all the members of the UN Security Council would support military action, and that is what will hold back the United States, probably.
Well, Huw Edwards is with me now. How serious is this split for the Tories?
Well, potentially very serious. I don't quite know what William Hague is playing at, in the sense that he seems to be deliberately antagonising lots of their traditional friends in the world of business. And what is the Conservative Party if it's not firmly allied to business? He's setting out to do this simply because he wants to be seen to be tough, and he thinks that at the end of the day, if he takes a very tough line against a single currency, it's going to be seen to be principled, and perhaps, more importantly, Gavin, it will be a popular vote winner too.
Is he really going to call them lemmings, which is what the press are reporting today? The CBI as lemmings?
Well, unless he executes a very quick U-turn overnight, the word lemmings will be in the speech, but he's going to use it very carefully and suggest that those people who are walking towards a single currency without really considering the big issues that he wants to consider, perhaps are walking like lemmings. If he tries that in the conference hall tomorrow and doesn't word it very carefully, Gavin, it'll go down like a lead balloon.
You're watching BBC News 24.
You're watching BBC News 24, the new round-the-clock TV news channel. BBC News 24, bringing you the whole picture, the whole time.
This is the Now O'Clock News from the BBC.
And you are watching the Now O'Clock News. Let's get the weather from the ever-youthful Philip Avery.
And that's all from us. I'll be back tomorrow. But before we go, today we celebrated the 20th birthday of the BBC News Channel. Since 1997, it's been covering the stories that matter all around the clock, with courage, intelligence and panache. Well, most of the time. Good night.
Under the proposals, drunk troublemakers will be taken to cells run by private firms and have to pay for it once they've sobered up.
Well, Guy Cuny is the editor of the technology website News Wireless. Hello, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Plenty more to come from here, of course. None of it news, because that'll come from Buckingham Palace. But that won't stop us. We'll see you later. Rachel.
We've lost a camera, but never mind.
This is BBC News. I'm Carol Walker.
Every now and then there's always one mistake. That was it. Now, would anyone want their very own